Well, if you don't have a job tomorrow, Caroline, you know you did a terrible one today.
Yeah.
In five, four, three.
Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, a fun theatre podcast about musicals and their impact on people. My name is Caroline Sheen and I'm here to quiz some of the leading creatives in the entertainment industry about their relationship with musical theatre and how certain musicals may have influenced their lives in ways you may not even expect. From how they first encountered a musical to musicals they may never even have seen, let's dive in and introduce today's guest to open up and talk musicals to me. I have a really exciting guest on the podcast today. He's actually my boss at the minute. Currently, I'm performing in Pride at the National Theatre. And Stephen Beresford is our producer, but not only our producer, he is the person responsible for the movie. He wrote it, he has written the lyrics and the book, but he also has a background in acting. He was trained at RADA, don't you know, and went into writing. He wrote The Last of the Housemans, which only ended up getting a director like Howard Davis and actors like Julie Walters in it, and a young chap called Taron Egerton, whatever happened to him.
Yeah.
Also, a play called The Southbury Child, Three Kings, movies like Pride, and a really exciting new one that I can't wait to see called Elsinore, which I believe is about Ian Charleson and his time playing Hamlet. Honestly, I can't tell you the fun I have with Stephen in rehearsals. It's been a long process, but you bring such joy and wit and humour to the room every day. I just can't wait to hear you talk musicals to me. Stephen, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
My great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Also, I think you were one of the first people I told about this podcast.
Oh, really? Oh, that's nice to know. Well, that's because the process of creating Pride took 35 years. So, or it feels like it. Actually, though, I will say, you're right. It's been a long time. Honestly, I'd go back and do all of it again. There was nothing about it that I didn't enjoy. And especially with people like you who were in it from the beginning, it's lovely that we've gone all the way through. I mean, from the very first time, it's fantastic. It really is.
It's been lovely because basically, for those of you who don't know, I did the workshops for Pride from Dot, really, didn't I? It's
Yeah, very first one.
January 2024, I think, maybe February 2024.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a lovely process and very good-natured and good-humoured. And I think the show helps that, doesn't it? Because it's a story about good people doing good things and meeting and communicating. And we're now in a hit show. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
We have lots of lovely 5-star reviews. That's really, really fun. And we have a sold out sign outside the theatre most nights.
Yeah.
So I am intrigued to know what your background is with musicals, because obviously you're a RADA trained actor, you're a playwright. So it's really exciting. You're not embedded into the world of musical theatre yet. So I'm really excited to hear what your answers are going to be. So my first question is, how did you and musical theatre first meet?
Well, my parents loved the theatre, so they went to the theatre. My mother particularly would take me to the theatre from a very young age. She says I went to see an amateur, it was in the town I grew up in, which is Dartmouth in South Devon. She took me to see an amateur production of Oliver. And apparently, I don't know, I was like 4, which seems an odd age, I suppose. But anyway, she did her own thing. I don't remember any of it. But she says after seeing Oliver, I said to her, that's what I want to do. But I mean, I might have meant be a pickpocket or live in a workhouse. How does she know? I was only 4 and I don't really remember it. But I would see sort of stuff like that, amateur stuff that was put on in the town, which is, you know, a whole thing in itself. But I joined a theatre group in Dartmouth. It's quite an unruly child, actually, and quite ungovernable. And it was considered it was a good idea to sort of, you know, they say let off steam or whatever it is they say about, you know, children who break things and are difficult. And so I joined this group. And that was the first time I think I probably ever heard a professional sort of piece of musical theatre on a cassette, of course. And it was Cats was probably the first one I heard, like the music of, which is probably just about out then. I think it's 81 or 82, something like that. And I would have been 8.
Yeah, I remember all that.
So
I remember people wearing the T-shirt. That was a sort of the T-shirt became a fashion item.
That is, to this day, I think, the greatest piece of theatrical branding that has ever been done, before or since. It was
The
incredible.
eyes.
Those eyes and the dancers in the eyes. That was
Yeah.
like, everyone would go, look, they're dancing. The whole world went crazy, if you remember. Everyone was wearing
Yeah.
leg warmers and all that stuff sort of danced. The idea of dance and the Gillian Lynn sort of choreography, that became so kind of, it was everywhere. Like all of those things. I can remember exactly where I was when I heard, I suppose, the overture and then the Jellicle Ball, sort of whatever, the opening number. And I remember, I thought it was incredible, kind of mind-blowing experience. And that certainly opened the door. And then this theatre group that I was in, she used to do shows, kind of crazy shows, and would often put on a show that was in the West End with no license, completely illegally.
Fabulous. Love it.
We'd go and see it and she'd buy the score. I mean, Cameron's going to hear this and come after me. Well, although, look, it wasn't my fault. I was 8, just to be clear.
Yeah. Don't name her. Let's keep her anonymous, just in case.
She's anonymous. Keep her anonymous. Yeah, so we did Cats. I find it so hard to believe.
You did Cats?
We did Cats when I was like 9.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, we did like, it was bits of it because you couldn't buy the full score. So it was like a couple of songs. And then there were probably other songs in it, like, I don't know, some kind of other Cats related music.
I need to know more about this.
I know.
What costumes were you in?
Well, you know, obviously leg warmers and that whole thing, you backcomb your hair. That was very much the aesthetic of Cats and sort of catty makeup.
Oh, Stephen, please tell me there's photographic evidence of
I
this.
wonder if there is. I bet my mum has some. I'll bring it in if I can find some. And I was, Mungo Jerry is the boy one, isn't he?
Yeah,
And then there's
I think
Rumpelteazer.
so.
So that was me. That's what I played.
Oh, fabulous.
I can't imagine how dreadful it was. For me, it was the greatest thing I'd ever been involved in.
Do you know what, though? I went to see a licensed youth theatre production of Cats when I was on holiday in St Ives in Cornwall. There was this local theatre, and we were with our daughter. She was 6 or 7 at the time. And let's take her to see that. And it was fantastic. Kids doing Cats made more sense to me almost than grown-ups doing it. It was very, childish and funny, and they had such energy. So I bet it wasn't as bad as you're remembering it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's very sweet and generous of you. I'm not sure, but I know what you mean about the kind of childlike energy of it. That does make sense. And I think it can make more of a sense of the show. There's not very much adult about it, really, Cats. And when they try to be sort of more adult, I mean, like the film where, they kind of try and be sexy cats, that can be quite sinister. I actually got to see the show. I was probably about 10.
Yeah.
And I saw it with my mother. That was the first time I'd ever seen a revolt. Everything was Prossard. And the new London Theatre, as it then was, now the Gillian Lynn, but which was so modern. And we sat in our seats. And of course, the set has its back to you, basically. So it's a big rubbish tip. You can't see the stage. And I remember thinking, because we didn't have any money, as my mother constantly told me, but she bought the tickets. So I thought, well, she obviously can't afford the seats that face the stage. So I guess we're just going to be at the back. And interestingly, I remember thinking to myself, God, I mean, it's extraordinary, really. I sort of cheered myself up in my head and I thought, well, I'll be able to hear it. That's just as good because it'll be live. Isn't that incredible? And then the overture starts and the revolve goes round and there was the stage. I couldn't believe it. I thought this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. So that was the beginning, really, of a love affair. And then I would go and buy, do you remember, I think it still exists, but online only, Dress Circle.
Oh, yeah.
I hope it does still exist. Does it? I wonder.
It exists online.
Online, yeah.
But yeah, the shop's gone. That was my London spiritual home.
Oh, me too.
If anyone needed to find me, they could find me in Dress Circle. We might have met there back in the day.
We might have. We might have fought over a copy of Windy City. We might have been having a scrap over Carousel, grabbing the last LP. Yeah, and I used to go in and that was all I wanted to do was buy musical theatre LPs. For younger listeners, that means long playing record. And I just would go in and buy them as many as I could afford. It didn't really matter if I knew the show or didn't know it. And then my parents had this stereo in the dining room and I would sit there in this big armchair and they had massive headphones that really almost were the size of my head. And I would just sit there and play this stuff and listen to it and sort of almost learn it. Because I was in darkest Devon and so far from the West End, we went up quite a lot, to be fair, but I didn't really have that kind of hands-on knowledge. So I've developed a very broad taste, a very Catholic taste. I'd listen to Gilbert and Sullivan and I'd listen to Jesus Christ Superstar. I'd listen to everything in between. And of course, in those days, if you were lucky, when you opened your LP from Dress Circle, you would get the lyrics inside. Oh, man, when you got, and there'd be a picture.
What a bonus that was.
Oh, it was incredible. So I'd sit there and I'd follow the lyrics. I mean, that's obviously the beginning of my love of lyrics, I suppose, because that's what I'd sit and follow them. And especially things like with the Gilbert and Sullivan, particularly the Pirates of Penzance, the 1980 something, Joseph Patt, which was at Drury Lane. And, you're following those patter songs and those incredible, fast lyrics. I just thought they were sensational. So I suppose that was it. That was the beginning.
Oh, I love that. With like what we were saying about how you went in and you couldn't see the stage and you were like, it's fine, I'll just listen. I remember going, I think I was probably a bit older. It had been running for quite a while by the time I went to see it. And there were people complaining about their seats. I mean, we can't see anything.
Really? Oh. And when you hear the stories of it, like Cameron McIntosh talks about, he went round the company saying to people, have you got any money you want to put in the show?
Can you lend us some money? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, literally, he was going around. I remember hearing, I think it was Paul Nicholas being interviewed, saying, I wish I had, because that would have been a really good investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Radio 4, they do that reunion program.
Oh, yes.
They've done one on Cats, and there's loads of great stories and about the incredibly famous people that would come and watch it because it was the thing to watch. Somebody came, I think, was it John Travolta or somebody very high up in film came and literally picked one of the cats and put them in their next movie.
Wow.
Saturday Night Fever, or what was the sequel to that? Staying Alive. Somebody from Cats was in that.
Yeah.
It was a huge deal. We don't really give it the credit it's due, really, when it comes to the impact it had.
No.
Because it lasted so long, it became sort of too familiar, really, I think, maybe. But yeah, great show, great music, great producing, really.
Great producing. And at the time, completely new. No one had ever seen anything like it. And as you say, it then becomes completely generic. Everyone knows it, has heard of it. We think it's old fashioned, but actually at the time, and I think it was responsible for what happened in the 80s, which, and as you say, when you reference Staying Alive, I think that show is hugely influenced by Cats. Because it's all about Broadway and there's a musical, and the musical is it's some terrible kind of Dante's Inferno thing where they're all dancing in that Gillian Lynn style.
Yeah.
I actually met her once in New York. I had lunch with her because I was writing a film about ballet, about Ninette de Valois and the formation of the Royal Ballet. And Gillian Lynn was in her original company, Ninette de Valois. So she was in the company in 1941. She just started as a dancer. And so I met her in the garden of the hotel I was staying in New York. She came to visit me. She was incredible. She sort of moved. She must have been at that time 90 something.
Yeah.
And she walked in, not entirely steady on her feet, but as she walked in, I thought the sexiness of the way her body moved, she still sort of had this feline. She was sort of such an amazing artist.
She really was. I worked with her on Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. She choreographed that.
Oh, did you?
And she was so lovely to me. I don't know why she liked me because I'm not a particularly good dancer, but she was always very, very kind to me. And maybe she took pity on me, I don't know. But she was absolutely lovely. And my parents, speaking of GNS, my parents were really excited to meet her because she had choreographed, I don't know if she directed it, but she choreographed a production of Yeoman of the Guards that they had seen before I was born at the Tower of London.
Oh, wow.
And the actual bell of the tower rang when everything sort of was kicking off at the end of the musical. So she's legendary, absolutely legendary, and absolutely lovely as well. So, Stephen, my next question is, possibly Cats might be the answer to this one too. Was Cats your first experience of musical theatre, participating in it, or was there something before?
Oh, no, yeah, that was the first. I've answered two questions in one. And then after that, there was the drama group that I was in, theatre group, which was run by this extraordinary woman who had one eye. She used to wear an eye patch and she had sort of three whippets and lived in this kind of mad, rambling house full of costumes and sort of suits of armour. And it was very eccentric and crazy and chaotic. And it was mostly young people. And it was the most fun. I made incredible friends there. And she was phenomenal introduction to theatre. And then there was a much more staid, bourgeois, sort of respectable theatre group, which was called the Dartmouth Players. And they would put on quite big musicals. And one I was in, very small part in. The one I was in was Fiddler on the Roof. This is Dartmouth. It's so waspy. It's like it's where the Royal Naval College is, the Royal Yacht Club. I mean, the further place from a shtetl you cannot imagine. And there we all are in our yarmulkes and everyone's going, oy vey. I mean, nowadays it would be considered extremely culturally insensitive. And of course, they don't stop there. They did The King and I. I mean, I mean, back then in the 80s, people didn't think anything twice about that. kind of thing. So through that group, I saw, or was in one case, what I would call sort of the classic musicals, the sort of the Rodgers and Hammerstein. That was where those things were introduced to me. And that really did plant a seed.
The ones that put bums on seats.
Yeah, because they work. I mean, the ones that we can still do, they really work. They really, really work. They're incredible examples of storytelling, just phenomenal, I think. I expect most, if not many, of your guests have said it all began for me in amateur dramatics. Would that be true? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so incredible.
I think perhaps in musical theatre, that's the case more so than in straight theatre, because there aren't as many amateur societies that put on plays, perhaps.
Yeah.
So my next question, apart from Pride, which musical have you seen the most? Are you a fanboy of any specific musical, like a repeat attender?
There are musicals I've seen several times that I wouldn't necessarily say I was a fan of. It's just that people, casting directors, want to take you, or agents or something. I saw the recent production of Cabaret more times than was necessary. The things I'm a fan of, I mean, I have a complex relationship with them all, but I love Sondheim, of course. The experience of hearing the lyrics to Now, Soon, Later in A Little Night Music, especially his opening, So Little Night Music is one I'm sort of obsessed with that show, but it's so rare you get to see it. I've seen Broadway, I've seen it in the West End.
Did you see Judi Dench's one?
I didn't.
So
that was a big mistake.
So good.
I mean, imagine of all the ones to miss, and I didn't see that one.
It was amazing.
Yeah, crazy. I didn't see that one. It's so mad. And I think it's a very hard show to do. And especially now, I think, because you need a big orchestra. I mean, do you need one? I think you do. I think to get that sound, that sort of operetta sound. But I haven't seen that as much as I would like to. But the ones that yes, that would be Sondheim shows I do. Although I always, if I can say something controversial, I always take issue with the book. I don't think there's a Sondheim show where I don't think we could trim this down a bit. And I have to say, I think A Little Night Music is probably the most guilty of that, because that's a show where they sing it and then they say what they've just sung. I mean, literally, they constantly do that throughout the show. And it's the kind of thing that happens when you first write the show and nobody's ever heard the music before. So you think, well, no one heard that, so we'll say it just to make sure.
So we'll just repeat it in case.
We'll just repeat it. And I think the trouble is with that is that as the show becomes well known, what you end up with is a sort of terrible repeats, constant sort of, I know I just sang this, but I'll just say it again. And big, long scenes, way too long. I mean, I would love to take a blue pencil to A Little Night Music. God forgive me.
Colour for cuts, the blue.
Yeah, always blue.
I should always worry then if I see you with a blue pencil in hand.
After that, so once I came up to London, I was at RADA, as you said. And again, we weren't really in the heyday then. And of course, I was at drama school, and then so I was going to see a lot more straight plays. But the things that my mum took me to see, which she had no knowledge of what she was doing, so we would choose at random. And we happened to see, for example, the very famous production of Follies that was a total flop in the West End with Eartha Kitt.
Diana Rigg.
Yeah. I mean, extraordinary. We sat in an honestly half-empty auditorium watching this extraordinary show. Evita, we didn't really know what that was, that we went to see again. And I was like, dress circle, bought the LP, played it along. In a way, I think what I'm sort of saying, as I speak, I formulate my argument, which is that what I do is I listen to them over and over, and I did as a child, over and over and over again. So I sort of have a show that plays in my head. That's slightly egocentric. There's no production that's been better than the one I imagined. But I do have a sort of relationship with the shows that comes from, and perhaps my whole feeling about Sondheim's, the books in Sondheim's, apologies to Hugh Wheeler and all the others. But the problem is because I would listen to the score only, because you get no dialogue. And then when I go to the show and people start talking to each other, I think, shut up, get on with it, sing.
I want the music.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, Stephen. So because, we were talking about the Pride workshops earlier, and a lot of those workshops, we were creating or putting together an audio of the show. We weren't on our feet. Was that for you and for Matthew to sort of listen to and do that thing of having your headphones on? And
yeah, exactly.
That's really fascinating. And that potentially comes from you sitting there listening to your record.
It's also Matthew's way of doing it that we create, as he says, a radio play. And then you listen to it constantly. I mean, I listen to that over and over and over again, thinking about how it works and when it works. And I would also do something which is I would put it on, say I was tidying my study, going through some paperwork. And then I would make a note of when I've zoned out and I'm no longer listening.
Yeah.
And then it's okay, why was I bored there? What happened there? And it was always when you were singing, Caroline. So.
Oh, thanks. Sorry about that.
No, darling, I'm joking. Yeah, it's really useful to go to sort of only listen and only have a relationship with it in that sense and just sort of think, what's working? Is it working? It really, really, really helps. Because in a way, like I say, you're watching the show in your imagination without having to get people up and move them. And of course, the thing about getting people up and moving them is it's an unwieldy business. You know, you've got to stage it. You have to make decisions, and making big decisions like that, which you may regret 2 days later, you know, it takes a lot to undo them. So if you're just listening, you can sort of decide, I think, and you can decide what's unnecessary.
And you hear the rhythm of it and
Yeah.
the pace, I guess. No, that's fabulous. Is which musical has made you laugh the most and which musical has made you cry the most?
That's a good one. Well, I remember as a kid, I was more prone to laughter. Because it's my job, I find it very difficult to have a genuine human response to any piece of theatre or drama of any kind.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure you're the same. I just watch and I will say to myself, that was extremely amusing, or that was side-splittingly funny. But I don't laugh. I do not laugh.
Yeah.
The last time I actually laughed in the theatre, I probably was a kid. I remember seeing Robert Lindsay and Emma Thompson in Me and My Girl.
Oh, wow.
And thinking that was extremely funny. And there's a fantastic song, the Song of Hereford, I want to say, where all the ancestors, the portraits of the ancestors are on the wall and they all come to life and do a kick routine. I remember that being very, very funny. And there's the Latin motto of the family, which is noblesse oblige. The Duchess says, do you see that there? What does it say? And he says, novels oblige. It isn't that funny now, but at age 10 or 11, I was nearly hospitalized. How funny that was. So I think Me and My Girl made me laugh. But the more funny a show is, the less likely I am to laugh now.
Oh, that's funny. Because
I'm thinking, how does this work?
Yeah, of course.
Because I think one of the fundamental principles of comedy is surprise. What happens has to be not what you expected. And the trouble is, I'm sitting there analyzing and thinking. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy it, although the person I go with thinks that I'm having a terrible time. I really do enjoy it. It's just that I'm thinking all the time. Whereas tears, they do come naturally. They definitely come. I mean, I don't know if I can say this with any decency, but there's no question that Pride makes me cry more than anything else. But that's also partly because of my relationship with it and with all of you and how the show. Well, you remember, like through the rehearsals, we kept saying,
"Oh my God,
the next person who cries on this stage is going to have their wages docked." I mean, we couldn't stop you all.
Yeah,
we couldn't get the lines out.
Yeah,
that took a long time to get everybody to finish a sentence.
We're still getting notes as well.
Oh, I know.
From Jen
I know.
Okay, can we have less tears? Less tears in the end, please.
I mean, it does do it to you, but I think you'd be pretty hard-nosed not to feel that.
I love that still affects you, though, and you're so close to it.
Yeah.
And it's been such a huge part of your life for years, you know, the film as well. And yet that story of just the power of communication and kindness and goodness is so strong. And the fact that it's true, you know.
And also, I must say, I see now the responses. For example, the song in the second act called You Might As Well Live. When I first met Jonathan Blake, the real character, when I was researching the film, so, 10, 11 years ago, he told me the story of his diagnosis with HIV way back in the 80s. He's one of the very first handful of people that was diagnosed. And he told me the story, and he told me absolutely everything that happened to him after his diagnosis and how he felt. And this is a bit of a spoiler, but he spoke about suicidal thoughts and all sorts of things. So sitting in his amazing living room in Brixton where he lives, he has a big mirror above the fireplace, and there's tickets for shows and operas and stuff that he wants to see and exhibitions. And he said, so now, you see, I keep all of these, and I think to myself, well, I can't die because I'm booked to see Carmen on November the 9th. So I've got to live until November the 9th. And he literally said this sentence to me. He said, well, if I thought to myself, if I'm not going to die, I might as well live. That was literally came out of his mouth.
Wow.
And so when I went back to play him the song before he saw it in front of 500 people, and I went to his house and I played it to him, which was extremely emotional experience because it was his absolute life story and every single detail is in it. And he finished listening and he nodded his head and he said, goodness, you have been paying attention. And I was like, yes, are you okay with it? Do you mind? And he said, no, you must do it. You must do it. But so the reason I go into that preamble is because I have seen in the audience in Pride responses to the song, some quite small, some people holding hands in the audience. On the odd occasion, I saw somebody who perhaps I think was of a vintage where he was a survivor himself of the crisis. And at the end of the song, he stood up just to sort of show fellow feeling, to say I'm here as well. That absolutely gets me. I mean, that sort of thing makes you, how could that not make you cry? So yeah, I mean, I'm profoundly dehydrated when I come out of Pride. I have to have So that's for crying. But then there are other things like I cry. Rodgers and Hammerstein can make me cry. I think they really are masters at that musical and storytelling, taking you up to those peaks of emotion. I think.
It matches, doesn't it? Everything matches in those.
Yeah, and beautifully, beautifully. I mean, like, for example, If I Loved You, which is, in my view, the most perfect melody, and the way that the song, that kind of conditional love song, such a clever idea to bring them into a love song, and the way that it plays in the verse, and then when you break into that soaring melody, I mean, that's incredible, that If I Loved You. And through that music, it's clear she does, and that brings me to tears. Yeah, those sort of things will be more likely to make me cry than an orphan dying in the snow.
Yeah, yeah. You're not the first person to say they find it so much easier to cry than laugh.
Really, yeah. I think, yes, I think it's very interesting. It's harder to do. It's much, much harder to make people laugh.
So my final question of Act 1. Now, I think this confession question is going to be remedied soon, because my confession is that I've never seen a professional production of West Side Story, and I believe there may be one happening in the not too distant future. So that I'm going to sort it out. Is there a piece out there that you regret that you haven't seen?
I'm glad that's the way this question went, because I thought you were going to say that you're going to confess which musicals you don't like that are classic, although the God knows there's a list. Well, I would love to have seen, which brings us nicely back to the beginning, I would love to have seen Jellicle Ball, Cats the Jellicle Ball, this new reimagining of Cats on Broadway. I don't know if it would come to London. I wish I'd gone over to New York. It crossed my mind and I didn't, and now I wish I had, because that to me sounds like the most incredible reimagining. So clever, brilliant. I'd love to see that. There are shows I'd really want to see, but not really because I think they're any good, but as a student of musical theatre.
Yeah.
There are things I think I would find really, really fascinating to see. A lot of Noel Coward musicals. I love Coward. He's a big hero of mine. But, you know, the musicals aren't really masterpieces, but some of the songs are absolutely masterpieces, like Mad About the Boy and 20th Century Blues. And Bittersweet, actually, I did see as a kid. And I was so excited because I loved Noel Coward. And it's terrible. Is that fair? It's nonsense. You know, it's sentimental. And
it doesn't live up to his plays.
No,
yeah.
It doesn't at all. But it has Talent to Amuse, you know, absolute classic Judy Garland cover. And it has this song called Green Carnation, which is sort of the most openly queer song, I think, probably Coward ever wrote, which is about three sort of Oscar Wilde types with their green carnations. Brilliant, brilliant lyrics, and completely comes to life. The rest of it is just silly. But again, I really love to see those things because I love to sort of study how they're done and sort of understand them. And there are lots of shows that I start looking up and thinking, God, I wish I'd seen a professional production of that or that.
Wasn't there one of his shows, is it Coward or was it Novello, that like took over Drury Lane and it had a cast of like hundreds? Was it Cavalcade?
Cavalcade. You're thinking of Cavalcade, exactly. Yeah.
Apparently you could see like a whole ship sinking on stage, and
the Titanic.
Yeah, I mean that sounds incredible.
Yeah, when Coward is writing witty comedies, which are strangely always about sex in a way, in fact, always are about sex and his particular points of view. Those plays are, as we know, great English classics. When he's more serious, like Cavalcade, you know, Cavalcade is a load of old tut, really it is. And he's basically, what he's doing is sort of charting the decline of British society, but which in his view goes hand in hand with the insubordination of the working classes.
Oh my gosh.
So they get cheekier, more demanding. That's sort of it. And you do see the Titanic go down, which is pretty incredible.
Wow.
There is also an Ivor Novello, you're right, an Ivor Novello show with an ocean liner in it. Glamorous Nights, I think it's called.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I think I'm right about that. Again, that's the kind of thing I'd love to see. I love seeing that. Those shows really fascinate me, and I read about them as much as I can to think, how did those shows work and why did they work and did they work? You know, that's what I find really interesting.
And do you think they were, like when you're saying about sort of the class thing with Noel Coward, in those days, would the audience have mainly been a sort of middle class, upper middle class? How broad would the spectrum of the audience demographic been back then? Was it an expensive hobby?
Yeah, I think it was a far more affordable activity. I think a lot more working class people were able to go. I mean, obviously you had to be in London. That was, you know, you had traveling to London would be a whole other thing. I think it was a very popular honeymoon thing to do for working class people around the country. Get the train to London, you'd see a West End show, stay one night in the Strand Palace and go back. And that was your honeymoon. Maybe walk around the stores. I think it was a more affordable activity then. But I think Howard's genius was that he turned the upper class into a style, a thing, which we still have in to a certain extent. It was a behavior they didn't really actually have. So he made them funnier, wittier, more glamorous, more racy than they actually really were. So they enjoyed seeing themselves reflected in that way. And for the rest of society, I suppose they enjoyed that too. If you wanted to see glamorous things, beautiful costumes and sets, you sort of had to set it in Mayfair rather than Mile End, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so. Oh, I'm having such a lovely time talking to you.
Me too.
Take a little breather, a little interval, and we should come back for part 2.
All right, let's get an ice cream.
So, on Talk Musicals to Me, I thought I would use this opportunity to support some friends of mine who have small businesses. And I put a message out on my social media to see who would get in touch and to see how I can help them amplify their voices. So, I have a couple of ones that I would like to mention today. So this one is from my friend John Chartres, who runs a small business specialising in accounting for the arts, self-employed actors, musicians and stage management, as well as small production companies. Friendly advice and good value for anyone who wants to get in touch at fresheyesfinance.co.uk. And this is from a dear mummy pal of mine called Lucy McCrudden, who runs a non-profit called Dance Mama, which is dedicated to supporting parents who dance on and off stage. With evidence-based information and support, plus over 80+ stories, we help parents continue their careers in dance from a physical, mental, creative and logistical viewpoint. Check out www.dancemama.org to see how they can help you navigate your career as a parent. And finally, Jessica runs something that sounds like great fun, a thing called Showtime Circus, which can be found at Showtime_circus on Instagram. It's a circus school franchise and helps other small business owners franchise or license their business. It's based in Birmingham, but I think there's lots of them around the country. So get online and have a look if you want to learn some circus skills. Thank you very much for coming back to Act 2 of Talk Musicals to Me with book writer, lyricist, playwright, producer and actor Stephen Beresford. Because you're a playwright and you've been, RADA trained, I guess it always sort of surprises me sometimes when people who I guess I look at as someone who's in the straight theatre world, that they have so much love of musical theatre, because it's sometimes, the straight theatre world, I feel, probably my paranoia, can sometimes be a bit dismissive of musical theatre, but it's really refreshing to meet someone who has such respect and interest for it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember having a conversation with Andrew Lincoln, who was in my year at RADA. It was like a little coming out confession, because it was at the time, so when I was at drama schools, that was like the 90s. It wasn't really fashionable. And also when you're at RADA, you're supposed to be going to see powerful, serious contemporary works of legitimate so-called stage. So I remember sort of coming out to him and saying I love it, and he just loves musicals as well.
He's been a couple of times already, I think, to Pride.
Yeah, he went last night. Oh, yesterday afternoon, I think. Yeah, he's always messaging me and saying I went to see it. He loves the musical. And I remember us having these conversations about musicals. But interestingly, you did sort of keep it a bit quiet. It didn't feel like well, I've reached the age where I couldn't care less whether people think I'm cool or not. And also, I hope the dial has moved, really. People take musical theatre far more seriously than they did. And so they should, because it's by far the hardest. No play I've ever written has had such a long and complex gestation and has required so much complicated reworking and expertise. Nothing like it. I'm brazen. I'm out and proud musical theatre lover. And I hope to write more musicals.
Oh, good. Have you enjoyed writing? Because I guess, is this your first time writing lyrics?
Yeah, I did write. So in the theatre group that I was in when I was a child, after a while, when I took off the leg warmers and we stopped doing pirate black market versions of Andrew Lloyd Webber's shows, I wrote plays and stuff and some kind of musical theatre pieces then when I was a sort of teenager. And so I'd done it, but I'd never done it for money, for cash money. So it's my my first professional experience of having written lyrics. I just adore doing it. I love it. And what's interesting is it's so liberating because you're so restricted. That's a fantastic thing, that because there are so many absolute rules that you have to obey. In a weird way, you can go sort of anywhere. Because this is my first go at it, but I still think there are lessons to be learned, and I learned some of them on the journey. But I'm sure I will look back on Pride and think, oh, why did you do that or that? To begin with, I was so excited about being able to rhyme words. And it doesn't exist in the show anymore, but I managed to rhyme sequins with three gwins. And I thought that was so great. And I was so pleased with myself. The great maxim, just because you can, it doesn't mean you should. And so certain things I did sort of manage to calm myself down on those. But I love that. The nature of drama, what makes drama work, or any art work, is that it has to be two contradictory things. It has to be surprising yet inevitable. That's the feeling you should have from a play or a show or whatever. Often you can very automatically reach for the surprising because it's so thrilling. I remember hearing Stephen Sondheim saying about West Side Story, Something's Coming, that he cringes every time he hears it because he thinks this is the kid from the Upper West Side who's left school at 14 and he's singing in the most intellectual, romantic way. And I'm sure I'm guilty of that a little bit. I'm sure there are things that break the rule of character. As I go on, I hope I'll get better at that.
What's lovely is that so many of your lyrics have been already quoted in reviews and blogs and things like that. And I mean,
that's nice.
I don't think there are many shows out there with a rhyme for sermon and Ethel Merman. So, it's a thing.
Yes, that's true. Or maybe not. Well, I'm pleased to be the first.
No, it's good. It's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. So first question of Act 2 is, what musical would you put on a school curriculum?
A great question. Well, I feel like they're all doing Joseph and they're all doing Oliver. I think they should do Sweeney Todd. It's incredibly hard. And the idea that you're going to find an 11-year-old that can sing Sweeney is ridiculous. But push them. Like, these children need to be pushed. Push the children.
Challenge them all.
As a show, it's that grand guignol. It's the sort of thing that kids will love. Kill it is murder. You'll eat it is cannibalism.
The boys would get involved, wouldn't they? They'd be like, what do you mean?
The boys would be into it. Yeah, the boys would be into it. And you've got really kind of genuinely scary stuff in it. I mean, I appreciate it's a very tricky show. What's the big song he sings before Little Priest when he's Epiphany, when he's got his knives? I mean, it's hard to imagine a teenage boy whose voice is just broken managing that. But I think we should expect more. I want to say, let's see Sweeney.
Absolutely.
Let's see it.
They do these junior versions of musicals now. There's a Mary Poppins Junior and a Matilda Junior, and they're like an hour long. And I think a lot of schools are now doing those versions. But I mean, I don't know if there's a Sweeney Todd Junior. That would be brilliant if there was. But also put the whole thing on. Do it. It's invest the time. I know they have no time and they have no money. I would say it's worth it, but I'm very biased. So
I mean, I completely agree with I think it's a good idea to be ambitious, really stretch them, because I think they can do Joseph. The jury is back on that.
I mean, it was written for schoolboys, wasn't it, Joseph?
It was, yeah. As was Jesus Christ Superstar, I think, originally.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Okay, so is there a musical out there, a forgotten musical perhaps, that you think is worthy of a revival?
I think a lot of the time musicals are forgotten for good reason. That's a bit mean, isn't it?
No, I think time changes things, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it worries me a little bit. It's unfortunate that because they're written in a different time and with a different culture and a different sort of social construct, there are wonderful shows that you just can't do now. And rightly, we don't do them. And I think so a lot of shows are banished to the past for those sorts of reasons. I love The King and I think if that's cast authentically, I think that's okay. And I'd love to see that on stage.
That's my dream show, Stephen.
Is it? You'd be a great Anna.
I've said that a few times on here. I've put it out there, but nobody's come knocking yet.
You just need to find someone to play the king and then it will be an unturndownable package.
Exactly.
Let's manifest it. Matthew can direct you. That would be great. It'd be a great production. Matthew and I used to play a game when we were sitting in the tech or into the dress, and we would play a game of how would you do a different musical on this set? And could you find a musical that absolutely could not be on the set of Pride? And that was a lot of fun.
Oh, I want some answers to that, please. Great game.
Yeah, we really went there. I mean, it always was the same. We go, well, it's a futuristic dystopian version of The King and I, or it's a futuristic dystopian version of Call Me Madam, or whatever. So when I was younger, I used to like The Boyfriend.
Oh,
And now
yeah.
I find it quite priggish and silly. And I went through a long period of not liking it. And when I was younger, because I loved the show, I saw the Ken Russell film. Do you know the Ken Russell
Oh,
film of
yeah.
it?
It's
It's
bonkers.
insane.
Yeah.
It's totally insane. I was horrified by that, and I thought it was a desecration of an absolute Meisterwerk. And then I've recently saw it again at the BFI. I say recently, one reaches a certain age. You say recently, and what you mean is 15 years ago. But
Yes.
sometime not that long ago, I saw it as an adult, as a functioning adult, and I saw it at the BFI, and I just loved it. I mean, it's
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
There's some terrible acting in it. Terrible, terrible acting. But the madness and what he was doing, which I now understand, which I didn't at the time, which is the whole Busby Berkeley 20s, these numbers, these pastiche numbers, and these set pieces, which are so extravagant and so wild. That's made me sort of fall in love with it again. But if I saw The Boyfriend again, I couldn't see it with a pink set and a view of the Riviera through the window and a balcony. It would have
Yeah.
to have a real angle. Maybe you do a sort of queer reappraisal. I don't know, maybe they'd all
Yeah.
be boys or they'd all be girls or, something like that. Be interesting. And if you do, I mean, if you take the Mickey out of it, I think it's quite a lot of fun.
I mean, I think you're meant to take the Mickey out of it. I think it was
Yes.
written to
I
do
mean,
that, but I think maybe even more so, it needs to be like that now. So,
yeah. And I believe that Sandy Wilson thought it was sort of a gentle pastiche. He didn't realize how much the Mickey would be taken out of it. The Broadway production, he was so horrified by, because all they could do was take the piss, because they were like, well, this is ridiculous. All these sorts of, frightfulies. Yeah. And I believe it was one of many instances in the history of the theatre where the playwright and the author was banned from the building. He wasn't
oh,
allowed to
yes.
come in the building.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that.
So I imagine they really went there.
There's quite a lot about that in Julie Andrews' autobiography.
Oh, is there? Right. Yeah.
She went out to America to do The Boyfriend. She didn't do it in the UK. She just did it in America. And it was a totally different team on it. And I think there were people that weren't allowed in the building from the London production.
Yes, and he was one. Isn't it what happened then was that they wanted her to do the film of it, Julie Andrews. I think he would not release the rights because he was so bruised. That may be a complete calumny. So one of your learned listeners will comment and say that's total rubbish.
Some digging. Yeah.
But I think he would not release the right. But they were ready, like in those days in the early 60s, they've got the lot at Paramount, they've got the costumes, they need to go. And so they had to write a show in 10 days or 2 weeks. Again, I could be being a bit mean. And they came up with something that would fit the costumes in the set. So they wrote Thoroughly Modern Millie.
No way.
And that's where the show comes from. Because if you think because in Thoroughly Modern Millie, she's supposed to be from Ohio or something. I mean, that's the whole joke. She's like an orphan and she's talking like that the whole way through because she doesn't even bother. Bother to do an American accent. She's just, I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I don't think she is, I can't remember where she is from, but it's somewhere in sort of the Midwest or somewhere in America But so it's all a bit thrown together.
Oh, I would love that to be factual. Yeah, I'm gonna go on a deep dive of that later on and find out.
Let's find out. We'll find out some facts.
Yeah, so I think, is there a musical out there that, I guess, changed you? Did you go and see a piece of musical theatre and come out and feel differently about how you were going to live your life or how you feel or who you are? Did anything chemically change inside?
Yeah, wow. Good question. I don't know. I expect in subtle ways. I expect that was the case. And certainly the messages of those musicals. There's a complex irony in being a white boy in a quite posh Devon town on the coast, watching other white people do South Pacific, but nevertheless hearing the song carefully taught, hearing that those messages were, and receiving those messages in that form, I think could have been formative. And I suppose there's a relationship with that and with pride in that Rodgers and Hammerstein were, both of them as artists, passionate about justice and passionate about humanity, I think. So when I went to see Evita with my mum, this isn't quite what you're asking, but so that was the Hal Prince production. And I think Elaine Page had gone by then, but I'm not sure if it was Julie Covington or who it was, but watching that Hal Prince production of Evita, I think that was the first time in my life I saw what was possible in theatre and in musical theatre. The way it started with this, I can remember everything about it, this huge cinema screen, and they're showing some schlocky Argentinian romantic movie, and the audience are doing whatever they're doing. And it's interrupted with an announcement to say Eva Peron is dead. And they all go crazy and they sort of freeze. And then the screen goes up and it becomes the funeral. And it's incredible. And seeing a sort of sweeping, epic drama. This is not what I thought musicals would be. The way he staged Peron's Latest Flame, the whole stuff with the army in one little tight box and the aristocracy in one little tight box. And they were moving around the stage as almost like as a single unit in this fantastic staging. And then at one point, Shay comes and he takes the clothes of the aristocrats and they're all underneath. They're all the descamisados, the poor. This kind of amazing stuff that made me just think, suddenly I realized I felt like theatre in general and musical theatre specifically, the things you could do with it were so huge and immense. I think that definitely had a huge effect on me.
That sounds incredible. I did see that version, but on a very scaled down tour in the New Theatre in Cardiff. I think it's one of the first sort of big Lloyd Webber musicals I ever saw. And I do remember feeling really grown up having been to see it.
Yes.
Like I wasn't a child at the theatre. I was watching something very, special. It wasn't a particularly spectacular set, was it? It was basically a black box, and yet all that storytelling happened on that stage so clearly.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
And I love that stayed with you. Like you still see that in your mind's eye. That's brilliant.
Yeah, 100%. Never left me. Probably after we've finished talking, I'll suddenly kick myself and think, wait, that changed your life.
What do you think is the secret to a good musical?
Wow. One thing that has been absolutely proven, and I think more so over the last 20 years than perhaps ever, is that it's not the source material, it's not the plot that really, in a way, is the point. Because you can make a musical about anything. We know that now. I think we didn't necessarily always see it in that way. For my money, you have to, Matthew said a wonderful thing, which is if we talk about ideas, he says, could it be anything else? And if it could, I beg you to make it that. Because if it's going to be a musical, there better be no other way of doing it, no other way on earth of telling this story. Because, of course, it's so huge and so much work and so much
money.
and money.
Yeah.
So that is interesting. And when we talked about ideas, and he says, please don't make it a musical. But so I think in a way, whatever it is, it has to absolutely compel you to make it a musical. It has to have an element, I think, which is not satisfactorily explained through words alone, where you have to take the audience out and deeper and wider in the way that music only can. I think in a sense, it has to need to be a musical. And I do think people can take source. I mean, of course, people will adapt films into musicals, but myself included. But I think a lot of people think, oh, that's a hit film, so that could surely be a musical. And I think there's a cynical view that's taken, which is, this is really popular, but how can we squeeze more out of the IP? Oh, we'll make a musical out of it.
That sort of commercial side of it.
Yeah. And it fails dramatically.
I think it's really interesting, like with Pride, is that was talked about so quickly, wasn't it? When the film came out, within weeks, people were saying this has to be a musical. I think the Welsh music side of it as well, and the period in which it's set, it does just sing. I mean, the film sings, so the stage show sings even more. It's
when the film came out, I said to Tim Minchin, I said, do you think this could be a musical? And he said, it already is a musical. And he was right. It kind of all you needed was the songs. I mean, it does follow that. It follows that structure. It is so hard to define what the component parts have to be. I do know that more than a play, even more than a play, end Act One with something that they have to come back to. I do really think you need to take them to an emotional place for the end of the act. I think there are certain rules that if you try and break them, they just don't work. And so you do want an 11 o'clock number. You do have an I Want song. You do need those things. My problem with musicals is what to leave out. Because I could write everyone a song. I mean, I really would love to. I mean, I really could. That's my idea of.
Everyone has their story that they want to tell, don't they? Really.
Exactly.
But it's what's important to the story of the show rather than the story of the character, I guess, has to be balanced and assessed. But no, I love that. It's been fascinating to kind of be such a part of the process of it all and watch you guys working on it. It's been such an education. I love it.
Had you done that before with other shows? Had you done a lot of workshops?
I've done lots of workshops, but not many that have come to fruition for me personally. They have come to fruition, but not that I've been involved with. I get picked for workshops quite a lot because I'm very quick with music. I'm doing one in a day tomorrow. That should be interesting.
Wow.
So that's nice. But yeah, this has been sort of the longest and most detailed process. And what I love about that is that it shows the respect that the whole team have for the form of musical theatre, I think, and that's been really special to be a part of. It's been lovely. And thank you for having me on board.
No, thank you.
I have one last question for you. Which musical feeds your soul? And you can actually talk about your own musical in this if you want to, but we have talked about it a lot, and obviously it does because our soul is broken every night we do it.
Yeah,
so
we're in the middle of it. I think the answer to that really is, and I don't think it's one, I think I have a particular relationship with Sondheim where there's almost nothing of his that I would listen to that I don't feel lifted by in some way, and that there's a full meal, and that you can return to those pieces again and again and again, and you still learn from them. The one that I really fell in love with the most, the first, I loved Sweeney Todd. I had that on cassette, and it was in like a sort of rectangular white box with the picture of the original artwork.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
With a sort of red splash of blood on it. That was hugely important to me. But I think it's A Little Night Music. I've grown up with it, and it's grown up with me, if you see what I mean, in the sense that understanding it now. And of course, its source material is Bergman. So it comes from Smiles of a Summer Night. It comes from a piece of work that is very sophisticated and very complex about human relationships. And I think so many musicals are, less so perhaps nowadays, but they are simple. Boy loves girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back again. There are little bits of grit in the story of South Pacific or of, Carousel or whatever. But ultimately, the relationships are generally between young people, a young man, a young woman. And with A Little Night Music, you have stories about people who are married and don't have sex. Every Day a Little Death, the song where the Countess is singing to, her school friend, and one is a virgin and the other one is married to a womanizer. And the kind of deep, painful, extraordinary nature of that song, that someone who is bitter and almost, has PTSD from the nature of her marriage, singing to someone who has never slept with her husband. And the way that she's also trying to keep up with what she's saying when she says, something that I agree or me too. It's painful, and it works on so many levels.
Is there a specific recording of it that you like, Stephen?
Yeah, the first one I had, which was the original Broadway cast, I don't think you can find anymore. I'd really like to find, I need to get onto Dress Circle again, but I'd love to find that again. I'm not sure it is the original one. I'd have to have a look and see what cast I have. But I think it's Hermione Gingold is playing the mother, Madame Umfeld. I'll research that and get back to you.
No, I do love that. My go-to for that was the Judi Dench recording. I listened to that so much, and I think so much so that my CD doesn't work anymore, and now you can't find it. I think it was like a limited edition or something like that. So maybe while we're at the National, I should try and beg them to re-release it. Yeah. Because it was beautifully, beautifully done.
Well, the National Theatre has an archive. Everything is filmed to the archive.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So you go and watch it. That's what we'll go and say, look, we want to go and watch because I never saw it. So look, we'll make an afternoon of it.
Shall we do that? That would be
Let's
amazing.
Do it. Yeah. That would be great.
Right. Fun. Brilliant. That's a date. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today, Stephen.
My great pleasure.
There's a couple of things you've got in the pipeline, haven't they? Elsinore is coming out soon. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, it's going to festivals and opens in America this year. Yeah, I think in November.
Brilliant. And who's in that? Remind us who you've got.
Wonderful Andrew Scott is playing in Charleston, and Olivia Colman is playing the doctor who kept him alive to play Hamlet. An amazing cast, and some people you'd recognise. Linda Tolhurst, who is the famous and much loved stage doorkeeper at the National Theatre. She is in the film and is played by Monica Dolan.
Oh my goodness.
Ralph Mills, one of the famous epic dressers of the National. He's played by Paul Chahidi. Wonderful Paul. He's at the National at the moment.
Fantastic.
As a film, it's a real love letter to the National. It's sort of a love letter to two London brutalist buildings, the Royal Free Hospital, which was the HIV/AIDS hospital, and the National Theatre.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Can we do a special Pride screening for it, please?
I think we should. In the National, why not?
Yeah, let's get that sorted as well. Stephen, thank you so much. It has been such a treat to find out all these wonderful things about you today and sending you loads of love. And I'm guessing I'll see you in person at some point soon.
You will very soon when I come and note you.
Thank you so much for listening today. This has been Talk Musicals to Me for the Bloop Network. My fabulous producer is Aaron Ware, and the music you heard is from the pen of the sublime Tom Self. If you get a moment, please subscribe or follow and rate the podcast by clicking the stars below on the podcast page. It takes about 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the podcast and its future life and would make us massively, eternally, enormously grateful. In the meantime, another huge thanks for tuning in, and please do so again next time to see who will be next up to talk musicals to me.